Strike action by the Hambantota dock workers ends. Hambantota port incident report handed over to the Prime Minister. Permanent Navy base to be established in the port. President on an official visit to Malaysia.
Good evening and welcome. You're with News First, your number one news provider. I'm Shamir Rasuldi.
And I'm Sonali Wanigabavage. Here's a look at the news in detail. President Maithripala Sirisena arrived at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport this afternoon, commencing his three-day state visit to Malaysia.
The President reached Kuala Lumpur at 2:10 this afternoon, Malaysian time. He was received on arrival by Malaysian Human Resource Development Minister and senior officials. The President is undertaking this visit on an official invitation extended by the Malaysian government. The objective of this visit is to enhance trade and economic relations between the two countries. This evening, the President met with investors and businessmen from both countries. President Maithripala Sirisena will also grace the occasion to mark 60 years of diplomatic ties between Sri Lanka and Malaysia.
Taking a look at our top story this evening. Dock workers who engaged in a strike action at the Runumagampa port in Hambantota for 9 days called off their strike action this afternoon.
Dock workers stepped away from the main gates of the port in compliance with a court order this morning and engaged in a hunger strike. Subsequent to a discussion between a group of representatives and the administration of the port this afternoon, the strike action was called off. Former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa provided us with an opportunity to discuss the matter with Minister Arjuna Ranatunga yesterday. The minister informed us of their stance. We put forward proposals as well. After the discussion, we decided to call off the strike action. Based on the decision that our jobs will be assured, we arrived at this decision. However, there is more to be done by the relevant authorities. Once our issues are resolved, we will extend our fullest towards the harbour. Subsequent to addressing the media, the workers reported to their respective workstations before 2 p.m.
The report on the recent Hambantota port incident was handed over to the Prime Minister by the Commander of the Navy this afternoon.
Following discussions with the President and the Secretary of Defence, I requested the Commander of the Navy to ensure the security of the port. The port will be given a new company on the 7th of January. He acted accordingly. There are international agreements to protect the ports. If those are not enforced, ships will not come to Sri Lanka again. We informed the Commander of the Navy to act on that. We have received a bill of $400,000 from K-Line on the losses incurred. I instructed Minister Malik Samaravikrama to speak to K-Line and the others on this matter. In the meantime, we instructed the Commander of the Navy to establish a naval base in Hambantota. When the Chinese company was taking over, we informed them that a permanent naval base would be established at the Hambantota port.
President already informed of the port sale. I have informed President Sirisena was involved in it. Unless your president is President Rajapaksa.
The Janata Vimukti Peramuna convened a media briefing in Colombo today. The JVP leader commented on the sale of state assets. Let's take a listen to what Andrekumar Dissanayaka had to say.
A Chinese company will own the Hambantota port until 2115. For the next 15 years, this company will not pay any taxes or provide any profits to the country, even though we own 20%. There are also plans to provide 15,000 acres of land adjacent to the port to the Chinese companies in order to create an industrial zone. They are planning on selling 1/10 of the Sri Lankan landmass as well as the southern terminal of the Colombo port. 85% will be owned by the company and 15% will be owned by the government. They are also appointing an authority to auction off the Pulmude oil deposit. The government is also planning on selling the Kahadagaha mine.
Anura Disanayake also commented on the culture of striking deals within politics.
Passport දෙකක් තබා ගැනීම වරපතල වරදක්. විමල් වීරවංශ එළියේ ඉන්නේ කොහොමද?
Owning 2 passports is a serious offence. Yet, how is Vimal Veeravansa still at large? The electoral list has been filled with false information. In it, the wife's age has been reduced and his has been increased. We have copies of this. Before departing for Uganda, Mahinda Rajapaksa called Mangala Samaravira and asked for 2 air tickets and a place to stay. When investigations were being conducted into the Cyrilia accounts by the FCID, Mahinda Rajapaksa called up Ranil Wickremesinghe and asked him, "Does my wife need to come to the FCID?" Then Ranil probably said, "We will send the FCID to wherever your wife is." A cabinet decision was reached to not press charges or file cases into the Cyrilia accounts. When Mahinda Rajapaksa left for China, Ranil Wickremesinghe informed the Chinese embassy to ensure that he receives all perks the ambassador would receive. The bond scam is something which was entirely based around Ranil Wickremesinghe. If it wasn't for the chairman of COPE, who was from our party, then the entire committee would have been brought over by Ranil Wickremesinghe or Perpetual Treasuries.
We are preparing to file 2 court cases in the future, seeking punishment for individuals involved in the central bank bond scam. We will also seek legal redress against damages caused due to the leaking of sensitive information from the central bank. The causes will also focus on funds like the EPF, which comes under the purview of the central bank. We will not let these issues die down.
The financial system of our country was shaken in February 2015 and March 2016 because of the infamous central bank bond transactions. The matter resulted losses in billions to the country.
The loss incurred by the country due to this is enormous. Perpetual treasuries owned by the son-in-law of the governor of the central bank received the bond at 90 or 91 rupees when the central bank should have sold it at 118 or 199 rupees. For every billion, the government has made a loss of 291 million rupees. Hence, the government has incurred a direct loss of 2 billion rupees. The interest rates in the country increased. When it is accounted for, it has exceeded over 5,900 billion rupees. The government should have acted on this. This is the first step. However, the Prime Minister is covering this up and has not taken steps to rectify this.
Initially, the Committee on Public Enterprise or COPE of the 100-day government was vested with the task to investigate the matter. Then, a 3-member committee was once again appointed to look into the matter and investigate it. Parliament was dissolved before the interim report of the COPE could be presented. A new COPE appointed after the 8th Parliament convened last year continued investigations into the matter. However, COPE or the other committee that was appointed to look into the matter did not have the ability and the power to prosecute the wrongdoers.
I think from the beginning, if we look back, we can see from the time this started, there was evasive action by the people in authority to see that no conclusion is reached on this matter. Therefore, we cannot expect any good result or any the expectations of the people will not be fulfilled. That is my opinion. In such a situation, what we can do is onward start demanding that a presidential commission of inquiry with full-fledged powers should be appointed to inquire this matter and ascertain the loss that has been caused to the country, to the central bank, recover the monies and bring to book the culprits who are involved.
Welcome back. You're watching News First. This time around, the budget debate took place over about a month's time. Here are some of the heated exchanges that occurred during the final day of the budget debate.
The number of bars in the Kurunegala district stands at 141. There are 59 in the Jaffna district. According to my knowledge, Nuwara has the most amount of bars with 181. If you take into consideration the number of Grama Seva divisions, the ratio is 6:1. When you consider Batikalo, there are 59 bars.
The policy of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe is to reduce this as much as possible. We require them to pay taxes when we provide these licenses. Revenue collected in this manner stood at 2,100 million in November 2014. But this figure has since risen to 13,800 million.
Can't you impose a time limit on these permits?
We are planning on imposing a time limit. Currently, you don't have to renew this license, but we plan on introducing a 3-year renewal system. The issue is not the permits or those who distill rack. The issue is with the people who steal from the bonds. Now they are starting a newspaper. Then they will start a radio station and TV station. We ask you to stop this.
A 500 rupee tax should be imposed on every litre of imported beer. Due to the floods, this tax was reduced. However, due to this special tax holiday, the state lost 712 million.
There are a lot of people who depend on this industry. I am trying to give you a response.
I did not know that you were involved in this. However, it looks like you are.
We are not involved in anything. If you can, reveal these connections. However, decisions need to be taken. We cannot simply push away this industry and let all these workers be left on the streets.
The state intervening to help out a falling industry is a good decision. However, reducing taxes imposed on beer is a totally different move. If the Prime Minister provides an explanation on the economy, then a majority of it will detail the debt burden of this country. I can state with responsibility that at the bottom of the crisis is corruption and wastage. Where is this money that is responsible for this mountain of debt? They are in Swiss bank accounts, massive palaces, or in bank accounts in Dubai. This is money that belongs to the people. The people of this country are not responsible for this debt. It is the rulers of this country who are responsible for it. Calculate this debt and show us. The crisis of not being able to maintain the value of the rupee, the manner in which it was allowed to depreciate, the manner in which the central bank stepped away from intervening, all this led to the debt burden increasing by 141 billion. The Hambantota port cost just 142 billion. Now turning to the matter of your good friend. Due to the sale of government bonds at a high rate and the sale of treasury bills by Arjuna Mayandran and perpetual treasuries, the difference in the book values of these sales and the maturity values of these sales led to a 70 billion rupee debt added on to the country. Who is responsible for this?
There are many issues surrounding the sale of rice in the marketplace. As a solution to the problem at hand, the government decided to release 150,000 metric tons of rice held at government storage facilities.
The government will release 75% of the 200,000 metric tons being held at storage facilities to producers. Paddy which was purchased for a price between 28 rupees and 34 rupees is being converted to rice. Rice which can be sold at 6 rupees is being sold for prices above 90 rupees. In such a backdrop, the 3 major mill owners are having around 1 million metric tons of rice stocks with them. The government has only 200,000 metric tons. If this is being given to those persons, an authoritarian situation is being created. We've received information that the paddy at the Thamutegama storage has been given to the leading mill owner of the country. Ministers and MPs are given their commissions. There is serious doubt about this. Priority will be given to the small and medium mill owners when these stocks are being issued. Mill owners in the districts will not be given priority. When paddy is converted to rice and being sent into the market from all over, the government hopes the prices would drop. If these stocks are released to the market as paddy, the prices of rice will only increase. Releasing stocks will not attribute to a price reduction. The government must reach an agreement with the small mill owners, pay a specified price for a kilogram of rice, and then the government can take the rice stocks. Rice can be sold for a lesser price through Sathasa and cooperatives. Although the government has reached a decision to release paddy stock to rice mills, there is no change to the decision made to import rice. We need rice by January and February. The Yalla harvesting seasons begins in late February and March. We need to have stocks of rice as standby. There is no need for any tenders. When the private sector is told to import the rice, there will be no government involvement. Permission will be given. These stocks can be placed in warehouses.
අවසරය දෙනවා ගෙනල්ලා ගුදමක තියන්න.
ගොවි අමාරුවේ දාන්න ලෑස්ති.
Do not create any discomfort for the farmer. Commissions are given through the importation of rice stocks. Do not create an environment where the farmer's rice is being given to intermediaries for a lesser price. On one hand, the farmers are being extorted, and on the other, the consumer is being extorted. The government is doing nothing.
නිලාගෙන බඩ උලාගෙන ඉන්නවා.
This is an attempt to provide the paddy stocks to the large-scale mills. If any business thinks that the price of rice would increase to 100 rupees, they can only purchase it. Media institutions can also make the purchase. The Maharaj organization or any other organization can do so. These companies can purchase paddy and convert it to rice and sell them when the prices increase. They can generate a separate profit. The government must create a transparent process of converting paddy into rice and ensure that consumers can purchase rice for a reasonable price, and also secure the industry for small and large mill owners.
Journalists raised questions about a phone call that the Minister of Finance received during a media briefing that was held today.
I'll check on that, Rama. I'm sorry. See. Huh? කියන්නේ ටිකක් චෙක් කරලා බලන්න ඕනනේ. මොකද? Yes sir. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Driving without stopping and without adhering to the police order. Okay. Borrowed them about 3 kilometers, then got the vehicle back. And he has been asked to come to the police station and will be produced before 4 on the 2nd of January. Okay. But right. Thank you very much, IGP. Okay. Okay.
Subsequent to the conversation with the Inspector General of Police, the Minister of Finance expressed the following views. 5 days ago, a statement was made saying that a daughter of a politician does not stop when asked to. But finally she was stopped in Nitambua. When inquired, she mentioned her name. She was asked to surrender herself to the police yesterday. Who was this politician? Attempts were made to create misunderstandings saying that the politician was from the government. Who is this? This was the daughter of Lohan Watwata. This was because of whose connections. We don't have to take this personally. I mentioned his name because he is an MP.
මෙන්න මේ වගේ වචනයක් කියලා තියෙනවා. දැන් අපේ රජේ බැරි වෙලාවත් අපේ ගෙදර නෙමෙයි අල්ලපු ගෙදර යමක් වුණත් ඔන්න වාර්තා කරේ මෙන්න මෙතන වුණා කියලා.
An event took place in Colombo for local government representatives of the Sri Lanka Podu Jana Peramana.
We are aware of the political situation in the country. We are working at a time where there is no stability in the country. The way I say it, it is correct to say that we are moving towards a police state and an oppressive era. The economy has collapsed. Unemployment is on the rise and the people are losing jobs. Labour rights are taken away. When you take a look at an incident at the port, one tends to think, what is happening? I see this as the first time that the three armed forces, the Navy, was used against a protest. I do not think that a military was being used like this before. Back then, it was the police that was against the trade union leaders. On one hand, court orders are obtained, while on the other hand, the military is being used. This is what you call daydreaming. He is obsessing over the fortune teller. This time the fortune teller predicts that he will rule the country from the 24th of January. He told certain companies to cause confusion and sabotage in the country until he comes back to power.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, in an interview with the Hindu newspaper, hinted on constitutional reforms.
Speaking on remaking the constitution, Prime Minister Wickremesinghe says that they are not in any way challenging the authority of Parliament. He affirms that they are all patriots and nationalists. The Prime Minister says that they have no problem dealing with anyone who wants to raise cry that the nation is in danger or that there is a danger of separatism. With regard to doing away with the overbearing executive presidency, the Prime Minister says that 3 options will be given for how the prime ministerial system should function, adding that the first option is the pure Westminster system, the second is a system where the Prime Minister is elected directly, and the third option would require political parties to declare their prime ministerial candidates before the elections. He notes that in all three options, the President would be a non-executive head of state. There is a sign that the President must act based on the advice of the Prime Minister. The President elected by the entire country will be working based on the say of a Prime Minister who tops an electorate or a district. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party is moving towards a more correct path with regarding to creating this constitution. Rather than creating a new constitution, make amendments to the existing one. They want to reach an agreement in Parliament without going in for a public referendum, just like what they did with the 19th Amendment to the Constitution. Everyone voted. There are two directions in this. The I remind the Parliament and the monks that many acts do not favour the people were presented to Parliament. Back then we burnt all those acts near the Parliament. We expressed our displeasure. We informed the government of good governance. Don't bring a constitution that will separate the country and have negative effects on the people.
Welcome back. You're with News First. The fishing community in Totamuna Matra were gifted with a lighthouse today, while people from Kusina Gampaha were given an opportunity of access to clean drinking water. The second phase of the Gamma the 100 Days initiative continues to serve the public. That is you.
For over a decade, the people of Kusina in Gampaha had to engage in a daily struggle to obtain clean drinking water. Following the intervention of the second phase of the Gamma the 100 Days program, their quest was brought to an end. Such acts are being done with the assistance of people with big hearts in the country.
අවුරුදු 10ක් 12ක් තිස්සේ ඉඳන් ඒ මහන්සිුණු අදුක්කිත ඒ කටුක ජීවිතය ඔබ අද තුරන් කරා ඔබතුමාලා කරන මේ මේවරේ තාමත් මේ පින් සිද්ධ වෙන කටයුත්තක්
අද දැන් වතුර ලැබිච්ච එක ගැන ගොඩක් සතුටු වෙනවා අපි.
This project was financially supported by former senior professor at the University of Kelaniya, Venerable Professor Dr. Dewale Gama Medananda Thero. This is not done by the government. These are not government funds. We must not wait for the government to do things. We must intervene. The Sirsa media has gone beyond the sphere of news reporting and identified the social issues in the country with the blessings of their senior head. This is a meritorious deed. The first project launched under the second phase of the Gammadda movement was vested with the public today. The dark times of the Totamuna fishing village in Matra was brought to an end with the construction of a lighthouse in the area. This tower was named the Vasanta Kumara Lighthouse in memory of a life lost in the absence of a shining light in darkness. The program to bring relief to the people continues.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened a media briefing at the party headquarters today, where an interesting dialogue was recorded on our cameras.
The chairman of the Election Commission mentioned that an election should be held next year for the provincial councils.
According to the law, it should be held.
What is happening to the local government elections?
I'm hoping to hold the elections by next March.
Minister, when will the delimitation process end?
I have given time till the 31st of December. Those officials informed that they will finish it by the 27th. If they hand it over by the 27th, I'm hoping to gazette it on the 28th. I do not have any intention of delaying this.
What is the reason for this delay?
I will hold the elections when they hand over the demarcation report. This is something I say every day.
Does that mean you will receive the report on the 28th?
I will gazette it on the 28th for sure, if I receive it. When the committee prepares the report, usually the subject minister asks them to get the signatures. But that is not right. I'd like to tell all of you that I will carry out my duty in a responsible and trustworthy manner. I believe that they will hand over the report on the 27th.
What happens if they don't?
If they don't give it, we will need to do the needful. There are problems. It is not easy to function in a consensual government. What the SLFP needs is to form a government led by them. And on the other hand, the UMP wants to establish their own government. That is their dream. So this leads to misunderstandings. You all know what happened to my rural roads, don't you? Attempts were made to transfer the authority of the rural roads to the Ministry of Highways. I held discussions with the President and the Prime Minister in this regard. Not just for me, different people have different problems. As SLFPers, we are also members of this joint venture. We respect the public mandate, and that is why we joined this government.
Has the SLFP experienced internal conflicts?
If anyone is trying to split this party, the members of the party will curse them.
Convening a media briefing last week, a group from the UNP in the Good Governance government have asked the ones who want to leave to leave. That is a big mistake made by the UMP. We are holding discussions on that matter. 3 new MPs of the UMP have made that statement. They have made a big mistake.
At its quarterly meeting on December 13, 2016, the Millennium Challenge Corporation Board of Directors has selected a few countries, including Sri Lanka and Tunisia, for new MCC Compact's 5-year grants to encourage economic growth and reduce poverty.
A statement from the US Embassy in Colombo quotes the US Ambassador as saying that it is a major boost to 6 decades of development partnership with the people of Sri Lanka. According to the statement, Sri Lanka, which was selected in December 2015 for a threshold program, will now transition into the Compact program after showing continued improvement on its scorecard, including demonstrated progress on democratic rights. It goes on to add that in both Sri Lanka and Burkina Faso, the board recommended that MCC explore investments that address obstacles to economic growth, both domestic and regional, while recognizing the need for statutory authority to optimize regional impact.
A program to provide bonuses to employees of the salt urn in Palatupana, Hambantota took place under the auspices of Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajith Premadasa.
A large number of workers attended the event. The board of directors of the salt manufacturing organization received present during the regime of Mahinda Rajapaksa, and that was a debt burden of 330 million rupees. That is the gift we got. The income of 990 million rupees earned by this organization will not be used for anyone's personal use. I state with responsibility that the era in which this type of things happened is over.
Welcome to the Scrum. Joining us this evening on the Scrum is Joel Outskoon, standing by at the newsroom. Joel, can you hear me?
Yes, Shamir, good evening to you and good evening to all our viewers.
A very good evening to you. Did you catch a glimpse of the matches during the weekend as far as rugby is concerned?
Yes, with the busy schedule, I was able to get a glimpse of the matches here and there.
But let's hear from the expert himself, Joel.
Yes.
Dr. Maya Gunasekara, former national rugby coach, former chairman of selectors, joining us this evening on the Scrum. It's all yours, Joel.
Thank you very much, Shamir. Well, we have with us the expert to talk about, which you mentioned to be the super gentleman's game, rugby.
Yeah, I stand by what I said because you see Indrajit Kumarasamy, the chap I played rugby with, Sri Lankan former captain. So he's a very good example of a super gentleman.
Very well said. Dr. Maya, from last Thursday to this Thursday, how have you seen the developments taking place within the sport?
Well, Sia Candy game. Of course, Sia was expected to give a better fight. First half, it was even Stevens. But of course, in the second half, Candy shifted to a different gear. Mainly because Sia FC missed a fair amount of very easy, simple tackles. Candy has a very good three-quarter line. So you have to have very good three-quarter defense.
Let's quickly get into the rankings also. Havies, then we have Navy, Candy, and then we have the Air Force.
Yeah,
what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, Havelocks are playing Candy, but whichever way it goes, I think Havelocks will remain number one because they would have, even if they lose to Kandy, they would have lost only one game. But the Havelocks Kandy game is going to be very interesting. As far as the forwards are concerned, I think Havelocks had the advantage. CR three quarters were not as good. They are not as good as the Havelocks three quarters. Kandy has a super three quarter line, but Havelocks will be able to contain them. So I am not going to predict who will win, but whoever wins the game, they will scrape through, the winners will scrape through, but it's going to be a fantastic game.
Doctor, you say Kandy has a super side, but if you look at the 2015-2016 season, Kandy was just heading. They thought that was the it team.
Forget about
But
no.
they were beaten twice.
Yes, forget about the season.
Yeah.
You are good only as your last performance, right? That's point number one. Point number two is crops and crops of schoolboys are coming up. It doesn't matter who you recruit to club X, Y, Z. The other club will take somebody as good as what you were. So it is actually a testament to the development of rugby in schools. We have crops of players coming up and no one is indispensable.
Very well said. You heard it all from Dr. Maya Gunasekara. Thank you very much, Doctor. Back to the studio.
The Joe seems to be very much on top of the game, Sonali.
That's right, Sham. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. I'm Sonali Vanik about the game.
And I am Shamir Rasuldin. Take care and good night.